Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session here on the Community and Social Services Graduate Program. I'm hoping everyone can hear me and see me. If you can't, please do let me know. But for those who don't know me already, I am Juanita Pope. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the CEO of VCOSS, the Victorian Council of Social Service. And it's a pleasure to be here today with some other speakers from the Department of Fairness, Families and Housing to talk about this very exciting new initiative for community and social services workforce, and in particular, grads. I would just like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on Wurundjeri Woiwurrung land. I'm up in the northern suburbs of Melbourne today, and it's a very chilly but very crisp, beautiful morning here. And I'd just like to acknowledge elders and ancestors of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people who have looked after this land here since time immemorial, and to also extend that respect and acknowledgement to other traditional owners and custodians of the lands that we are all joining from today, and also to acknowledge and thank any First Nations attendees with us today. This is and always will be Aboriginal land. I'm very excited by the potential of this program, the Community and Social Services Graduate Program, affectionately known as CASS-GP. I'm very excited about that opportunity to address what seems to me to be, and what I hear from VCOSS members, is one of the most important issues facing our sector, and that is workforce. Victorian government modelling indicates that Victoria needs over 83,000 new workers in the healthcare and social service workforce by 2026. That's pretty soon. And a large proportion of those workers are needed specifically in the community services sector. Unfortunately, right now, we are struggling to maintain a trajectory towards that goal. That is a lot of workers to secure into our system in a very short space of time. We know and hear from members on almost a daily basis that people are struggling to fill vacancies in critical frontline roles. There's pain points across the system, and in particular in regional and rural Victoria. We know that careers in community services are highly rewarding and full of amazing, amazing people. But we also know that community services are finding it difficult to attract and retain talent. The solutions are many. And they include adequate and long-term funding so that the sector can provide that secure work for the long term. And you can be assured that VCOSS will continue to press hard for that in its advocacy with the Victorian Government. But in the meantime, we are really pleased to see that the Victorian Government has invested in initiatives like the CASS-GP, the Community and Social Services Graduate Program. This program is a collaborative partnership between VCOSS, DFFH, and a number of other sector peak bodies who are collaborating together with academic institutions as well to deliver this exciting pilot. And importantly, it has involved consultations with our sector. We started with some focus groups back in November last year with early career workers, with their supervisors, and with talent acquisition personnel from a cross-section of our member organisations, and those initial consultations informed the shape and design of what is now launching as the CASS-GP graduate program. So today's session, we hope will give you a wealth of information on this exciting new initiative, how to get involved in the scheme, and be a part of building that pipeline of new workers into our sector. We encourage you to stay actively engaged in the conversation by putting your questions in the Q&A box. So just to call out that that's the Q&A box. We won't be using the chat function for this webinar today. Please use the Q&A. And we will put those questions to our presenters when they have finished their remarks. And so as to those presenters, it gives me great pleasure to introduce now Rachel Green, Executive Director of the Centre for Workforce Excellence at DFFH, and Tom Craven, the Director of Workforce Strategy at the Centre for Excellence as well. So Rachel and Tom, welcome. Thank you for joining VCOSS today to take us through this program, and thank you. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Juanita. We really appreciate this opportunity. We are equally as excited about this kickoff time, the launch of the program, which has been coming, and so we're really keen to hear from all of you today in relation to questions and what next. I want to also echo Juanita's acknowledgement of the traditional land that we are meeting on. Tom and I are Tom Craven, who's the director in the Centre for Workforce Excellence, where we are coming to you from, coming from 50 Lonsdale, coming from Wurundjeri land, and pay our deep respects to the elders and custodians of lands that we are on and that you are all dialing in from. I also just want to mention that, we are very conscious of the URUC Commission, that is underway in terms of the hearings over this period. So particularly for Aboriginal organisations on this call and the broader Aboriginal community, we are very mindful of that. And that's certainly a very important lessons coming out of it, and particularly in relation to workforce around that as well. So I'm just going to make a few remarks just in relation to some of our broader work, and then Tom will take us through some of the more detail around the graduate program, and then we're so keen to hear from you in relation to questions and how to get involved. So the Centre for Workforce Excellence, a central branch in the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, really to bring together and consolidate efforts that go to address the challenges that Juanita so clearly outlined. We are looking across a really significant workforce challenge across all range of sectors across social services and more broadly. And we are both in terms of having shortages in relation to the kind of skills that we need to do, the level of work and the nature of the work that is in progress that we have to do across community services, the different nature of that work. How do we consolidate our efforts to do that? So this is one of those programs really targeting on early career. We really know we really need to build that. It is a critical time to provide additional support in relation to retention. We know the challenges that you all tell us in relation to how to keep people after a period of time. The work is not easy, it is hard, it is complex, and it requires a real level of skill in relation to working across systems and addressing the really critical needs that community has in accessing community services. So the wraparound support, the additional resourcing that's needed to support that early career pathway is a really important part of that program that we want to, that hopefully addresses some of the challenges that you have raised around that. We're undertaking a range of other programs, Switch to Social Work, Switch to CP, as some of those options or trials we're doing in relation to career changes. So how do we think about bringing people in? We know we need the right incentives to do that, the right support, the right organisational support for employers to be able to do that as well. More broadly, and I know there are some universities and TAFEs online, which is fantastic, that broader supply, that broader skills supply, what are the qualifications, how do we ensure that we can both target and look at the sets of skills that we need, work closely with, in partnerships with the higher education sector to support that. And from our end in the centre, we are really trying to set up a statewide network with universities, really work closely with TAFEs in relation to how we can do that and work with our skills colleagues in government. So really wanting to make that point. And of course, you were all very involved in what needs to happen at a Commonwealth level in relation to that as well. We really want to thank the peak, thank VCOSS, and there are a number of peaks, as Juanita said, involved in this work. So so I'm having a look. The Centre of Excellence of Child and Family Welfare, Safe and Equal in terms of family violence, SASPIC in relation to sexual assault, Council of the Homeless, CHEA, NDS in terms of the importance of the disability sector, VACA and the Aboriginal Children and Young Persons Alliance, and bringing in the important context for ACOs and what that looks like in relation to this kind of support that's needed and the nature of these kind of programs. It's a really important trial for us. We are really hoping it tests well. We've got a number of intakes over this program, so we've got time over the 3 years to really make sure we test it and that it works well for people. So that's probably where I'll leave it. I'll hand over to Tom to talk us through the graduate program. Thanks again for coming. I'm really keen to hear your questions when we get to it. Thanks, Juanita. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Rachel, and good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for your time with us this morning. I am just going to share my screen. I hope everyone can see that, and I'll take you through the overview of the graduate program and provide you an overview of where we're going and what we're trying to do, some of the details of the program itself, and then how you can get involved. I'll just start by letting you know these slides will make them available to everyone who's here, so don't feel the need to scribble quickly to take down all the information. We'll have these available for you. This session's also being recorded for those who have to duck off or those who aren't able to be here. And we also have a program website that we'll give you a link to that has all this information as well. And finally, Rachel and Juanita both mentioned the role of VCOSS and the other peak bodies supporting the program. All of them have been really active in supporting us and working with us on this, so they also have plenty of information and support for you to get involved as well. So lots of places you can find all this information again. So just sit back, relax. We'll take you through the overview and then provide this information afterwards. So let me start with where we're coming from and what we're trying to do with the graduate program. And it really does start with what we think is a bit of a statement of the obvious, but just that recognition of the complexity and the challenge of community services roles. They are highly skilled, expert practitioner roles that operate in very challenging contexts. There are other challenging contexts in which experts operate across social services, in health, in allied health, nursing, in education, in places like that. And an almost ubiquitous part of the workforce journey for people in those sectors is a really well-structured, well-supported graduate year. You go to other parts of social services. It's a standard part of how workforce happens. It recognises the need for on-the-job learning. It recognises the need for additional support in the early years of challenging but rewarding complex jobs. In that sense, community services, we are the anomaly. We don't routinely have a graduate year and development programs. We have a lot of support that we provide to new graduates, and I know a lot of the organisations on this call will be doing different ways of supporting your new workforces, and it is there, but we don't have that mature and systematic graduate program in a way that so many other professional workforces have. We think that's a real gap, and that we think that's a real important area to focus on. Juanita and Rachel both spoke really clearly to the workforce challenges that are operating across the board, and the advocacy of your organisations and of VCOSS and other peak bodies. That message is really clear. We know we need skilled and experienced workforces. We know some of our biggest vacancies are often at those skilled level, but the only way to get those skilled workers is to grow them, is to invest in them, is to develop them and provide that rich and supported program early in their career. We also know that takes cost, that's an investment. We know often with your busy senior staff, they're the ones that often bear that cost of providing that, and that creates an additional challenge to providing a really well-supported entry-level roles. And so this program is government coming to help and share in that investment, to partner with community sectors, employers that are looking to support and create good, rich and rewarding experiences for their new starters, to invest in that next generation of community services professionals, and that's who we're looking to partner with. So this is the Community and Social Services Graduate Program. It's a pilot, as Rachel mentioned. We've got 3 years of funding to trial it. We're going to commence later this year. I'll get to the full timelines in a moment, and then have future rounds of the project through the next 2 years following this year. There are 2 core features of the graduate program, which I'll talk you through in detail, and they're there on the right-hand side of the slide. The core of the program is a learning development year, a structured 12-month graduate development program, providing a rich and well-supported early career experience for new starters. We think that we want to invest in their job readiness, in their confidence, in their skills, in that support through the early year of their career, with the expectation, the hope, the confidence that will retain more of those workforces in our sector. It will build their skill set, and they become that skilled and experienced workforce that we know that we need, and that Juanita so clearly outlined the need for it. We also heard from students and graduates coming into our sector, including through the research that VCOSS did late last year in developing this program, that for a lot of graduates, they find starting out in community services quite confusing, quite difficult. There's a large number of different specialty areas, a large number of different employers. It's not always easy to tell what's an appropriate role for a new starter, what's the right entry-level position for a new graduate. We don't have great data on this, but we know from some of our data that as many as half of graduates in relevant community services qualifications don't go on to a career in our sector. We lose them. We don't know where they go, but we know that we lose them. And we get feedback from students that it can be difficult to know where to start your career. So we're also, through this program, looking to trial a streamlined graduate recruitment approach, a simple and visible platform for students and graduates to find information about the range of careers that are out there, for community sector employers to improve graduates' understanding of the range of careers out there, and to connect them with appropriate roles. So those are the 2 elements that we're involved in. We're looking for organisations to participate in either or both of those, and I'll explain them a little bit more as we go. Before I give you more information on those 2 points, though, I just reiterate where we're trying to go with this, and what the goals and outcomes we're trying to achieve. We're looking to create a program that makes us better able to support new community services workers to thrive early in their career. We know this requires investment. We know this requires a commitment in terms of the high quality, those features of a high quality graduate support program, and government is looking to share in that investment to create a program that can operate across community services with some support from government, but also commitment from community services employers. We're also looking to create a program that provides easier pathways for graduates into community services, and then those 2 key outcomes are there at the bottom, that where we're focusing to go. So let me take you through each of those 2 components of the program. Firstly, I mentioned that first component, a learning and development year, a graduate program year, 12 months. What we're looking to create is a structured professional year program based on the evidence-based features of good professional programs, both that have already been trialled within our sector and that have come from our wider social services sectors. Some of you on the line potentially participated in the Family Violence and Sexual Assault graduate program that operated over the past few years. We had very positive experiences from that program, and there was a recent evaluation that's really informed this as well. We know other organisations have trialled graduate type years in their organisation, and of course, we have great and very mature examples from the health and education and other social services sectors, and they've identified some really key components of a really strong graduate program. And on the slide there in that green line, you'll see those summarised. These are evidence-based components of a really strong professional graduate year. Orientation, good quality orientation, not only within an organisation, not only within a specialist sector, but also within the wider community services environment in which people are operating, the wider legal context, the wider systemic context that they participate in, and also helping people to have an identity and recognise their role as part of a community services workforce, a bigger whole that they're a part of. Professional learning, on-the-job skill-based learning, a critical part of people starting out, both learning on the job and providing that professional learning to provide to work in a complex and expert environment. High-quality supervision and support, including direct supervision and developmental and mentoring support as well. And then being part of a peer community, which is a really important part of graduate programs as well, recognising you're part of a peer cohort, starting out a career together, potentially being on a career journey together that lasts a very long time. You'll also see on the right-hand side of the screen there the idea of rotations. In a lot of other graduate program settings, rotations are a really key part of that learning journey. They're very positive. Students and graduates are very attracted to them and get a lot out of them. And by and large, the learning experience is really strong. However, they're also quite difficult to achieve. And if you haven't tried rotations in your organisation, some of you will, some of you others, you'll automatically think of the business challenges that creates as well. So this is a pilot. We're looking to test and develop and grow over a period of time. And one of the things we wanted to put on the table as an optional, not a mandatory part of the program, but something we want to start to explore with the employers is the possibility of rotations and how we can create that rich learning experience. So just be really clear, it's not a mandatory component of the program. It's something that we're looking to work with you and work with others to build and develop. Now, as I went through that list, I know a lot of you will look at those lists and say, we do a lot of that already. And of course you do, and you absolutely do. And that's fantastic. What this program is about is helping and working with your employers to build that capacity, to build from where you are, to create a richer and stronger graduate experience for your organisations. So I've described there on the screen the idea of a mixed delivery model, in a sense, that a lot of these components will be delivered by your organisation. Some of them they already are, some of them with a bit of extra resources you could strengthen and grow. We're also, as a central program, looking to develop features that we could provide and we could offer that can enrich the experience of graduates in your organisation. So in particularly, we're developing at the moment a professional learning framework and opportunities for professional learning that graduates could access into. The program will also be making available peer networks that graduates can participate in, providing them a wider professional support, wider professional networks to support their early career. And then the program would also provide $8,000 per graduate to employers to help you build your capacity to support new graduates in your area. That might be to grow your supervision capacity. It might be to create a bit more space for your graduates to participate in learning or reflection activities. It might be to create access to training. We would work with you on those things. So it's a shared model, it's a mixed delivery model. It's about working both accessing the resources of a wider program, but also working with employers themselves to build your capacity to provide a great graduate program for your employers. To that end, you'll find on the website, which I'll give you a link to in a moment, our program guidelines. Hopefully you'll find them nice and simple and nice and easy and to read and understand. But they outline the core expectations, the minimum expectations to ensure a high quality program. But they're also designed in a way to be flexible and to work in partnership with you to build that capacity, to build that a high quality graduate experience. I'm just going to pause, quickly check my notes and make sure I got through everything. And I think I did. The second component, which I mentioned earlier, was a streamlined pathway to make it easier for graduates and potential graduates to enter our sector, to find more information about the roles that are available out there and to be matched and to find careers that are appropriate, places to start their careers that are appropriate to a new starter. We're looking to create that visible platform, well promoted, well accessible for many students and graduates, making it easier and clearer for more graduates to find careers so that we retain those graduates and then we get more of them to come and work in our sector. We have recently commissioned RMIT's Workforce Innovation and Development Institute, WITI, which hopefully been known to quite a few of you, to operate what we're calling a graduate resource centre. It would be that platform for new graduates, places where they could contact to apply for a range of appropriate roles, making it easier for people to find access to roles in that sector. What that means for you as an organisation is that this Graduate Resource Centre will provide you access to a new potential pool of graduates that have completed relevant qualifications, have been screened and had eligibility testing, things like that through WITI, and potentially matched to roles in your organisation. WITI are working through their processes to do that now. Of course, it would remain the choice of the employer as to the right person for your organisation. So of course they would be working in close partnership with employers to match the right people to your jobs, and of course you'd participate in undertaking some of your own recruitment activities and selection activities as well. But through the work of WITI and through the work of this visible platform, we're creating a new pool of graduates that you could have access to fill roles in your organisations. Really importantly, this is one avenue through this streamlined pathway through the WITI. This is one avenue in which graduates could come and participate. But we also recognise that as employers, you'll be recruiting people day to day. You will have recruited people in the last week, perhaps, that you would think they'd be great for this graduate program. And your existing recruitment pathways will also continue, and you can also access the graduate program that way. So I'll speak more about this in a minute, but there are two pathways by which a graduate can participate in the program. One is they can come through, apply through this visible platform that is available and is being promoted for graduates right now. They can be screened by WITI and work with WITI to be matched to appropriate roles, and they can enter the program that way. But also you as an employer, you may directly hire graduates that meet the eligibility criteria, and you can nominate those to participate in the program as well. So they can participate in that 12-month graduate rich and graduate program and be nominated to participate that way. And we can also have this platform for creating, for accessing a greater pool of graduates. So how can you get involved? Here's how you can get involved. Yeah, we're really eager, and we're really thankful for VCOSS for putting on this session. We're really thankful for our other peak body partners for their efforts to promote this program, because we are looking to partner with community services employers. Particularly, it's for you if you're keen to and willing to invest in the skills and graduate and experiences of new graduates, and also looking to develop your own capacity to do that well and to do that better. Perhaps you already take on a great deal of new starters and new graduates, and this is a program that can just enhance your support for them. You're retaining more of them, building their skill sets more. Perhaps you're an organisation that hasn't historically taken on that many new starters. Perhaps you have a range of complex roles that's quite difficult for a new starter to participate in. Possibly this program can allow you to wrap some more support around people starting in those and enable you to take on new starters when potentially you haven't previously. By participating in the program, you'll have access to funding of $8,000 per graduate. Of course, that's not the full cost of investing in a graduate. Of course, there are other costs that your organisation will invest in as well. We're sharing in that investment with you, but we're hopeful that by using that, you can build your capacity to access those supports for your graduates. Graduates in the program will also have access to learning and development resources that the program's providing. I mentioned earlier a professional learning program that's being developed, peer support networks as well. And then finally, I mentioned the Graduate Resource Centre also would provide you access to a pool of qualified, motivated, screened and assessed graduates through regular application rounds that you can access to fill vacancies in your organisations. There are two ways you can be involved, which I mentioned earlier. Firstly, you can employ a new qualified graduate. You can nominate vacancies in your organisation to our streamlined graduate recruitment platform, and working with WITI be matched with qualified and motivated new graduates to enter into your organisation. If you've also directly employed new graduates, new starters that meet our criteria, you can nominate them to participate in that program directly. So you can nominate your existing staff that way to participate in the program as well. If you're interested at all, I would also just really encourage you to either reach out to ourselves, reach out to VCOSS, or reach out to your peak body. Rachel mentioned the long list, and we wrote it down to make sure we didn't miss anyone. We have really great and active support from the peak bodies in this program, and they're very much excited and eager to talk with you about how to participate, particularly if this is taking on new starters is a relatively new thing for you, or if you're looking to grow and develop. The peak bodies are also actively involved with us here. They can answer your questions, and they can also work with you potentially to facilitate partnerships or different ways of sharing resources or information to participate in this program. So I really encourage you to reach out and participate. Just finally, some specifics. Our website is up and running. We'll make sure you all have access to that. You'll see these slides up there. You'll see the full information up there. You'll see a fact sheet up there, and you'll see the program guidelines up there. We also have a website that's graduate facing that we're promoting through our university colleagues and through other places that graduates can start to look into as well. The website's there. Please go ahead and have a look. The registrations are now open, and we would love to have people register to participate. You can register today. Pretty simple. We promise a pretty simple registration form. There are some eligibility criteria that are outlined on the program. If you register now, you can register to participate in the whole program over the 3 years, and then we'll have further contact with you in relation to each round in terms of how many graduates you might like to take on, the nomination of vacancies, etc. The dates for our different rounds are here. Our first round is open right now, looking to have people starting in October in the program. We'll have further rounds in early and mid next year and early and mid the following year after that. I really encourage you to look out to those places for more information. I'll stop sharing right there and might pass back to you, Juanita. Yeah, we've got a good amount of time. Rachel and I are really delighted to have a bit of a conversation and answer all your questions. But yeah, thanks so much for your time and thanks for your interest.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Rachel, too. It is, yeah, as we said earlier, a really exciting program, and it's great to get the specifics out there, and great to see that enrollments or applications are now open. So a critical time. I just want to thank you both for presenting today on the program, and I'm sure we'll probably find that there's quite a few questions amongst the participants today. So we'll head to them now. Just a reminder for everyone online that we are using the Q&A panel for questions today, and happy to field them to Rachel and Tom as they come through. So please don't be shy. Put in your questions to the Q&A panel. And if we don't get through everything today, then we could always get back to you or take things on notice if required. So we do have a couple of questions that have already come through, Rachel and Tom. And the first one is this: if our organisation is already providing some of this support with existing funding, will we still be able to attract new government money through this scheme to fund some of these same tasks?
I better take that one, Rachel. So I of course delighted to hear that a lot of organisations are already doing this, and of course we're aware of that. A lot of organisations are already investing in some of those key features that we've talked about. That's excellent. This new funding, if you're already doing some of those things, then absolutely we would love you to participate in this program. The new funding is available there to help you grow and build that capacity. I'm sure you'll know better than me. You perhaps would have looked at those 5 things that I looked down, and you'll probably go, yeah, we do that quite well. Gee, we could do that a bit better. This bit we're not doing so well, and would absolutely, this program is about being able to help you build that capability and identify areas where you're already doing well, and other areas where with a bit of extra capacity you could, or with access to the wider resources of the project, you could actually improve that program all the more. So yes, we're looking for partners. We're looking for organisations that are keen to build that capacity and that capability. You might be starting off a pretty low base, and this is quite new for you, and we'd love to partner with you to help build that. You might be coming off a pretty good base already and keen to go to the next level, and we're keen to do that with you as well. So that's anyway, that might be an easier question to answer in the abstract than in the specific, and we can get through the registration process, talk about some of the specifics, but in general, very keen to partner with both of wherever you are currently on that sort of journey, and the additional funding is there to help you build that capability and that capacity. We know about the constrained resources, of course. We know about the challenges it takes to create a good graduate experience, so that funding's available to help you increase. It might mean taking on more graduates than you otherwise would. It might be providing a richer experience than you otherwise would. Yeah.
Juanita, I might just add, I mean, I think that's a good one in terms of calling out, because we will obviously evaluate the program, and we are really aware of the breadth of difference in relation to organisations across the community sector. So as Tom said, we're looking at, we know people have different levels of resources. Some have large HR functions and can have different kind of levels of capacity. So that will be such an important evaluation question about what is the kind of core, what are the critical additional elements in relation to additional resourcing and funding and support to enable this to happen for all organisations. So yeah, thanks for the question. That's really helpful.
Thank you, and that evaluation will be so so important for organisations as well, to be able to cumulatively, you know, kind of understand this picture a little bit more, and help us as a sector steer a course and prioritise in relation to, you know, workforce pipeline issues moving forward as well. So yeah, it's a really important component for us all in this pilot space. The second question I've got here is, I am interested in hearing more about how the roles might work in upskilling graduates in multidisciplinary areas, by perhaps giving graduates the opportunity to work across different organisations, or by doing doing rotations. What support is available to identify how we might find opportunities for graduates to work in different organisations? And how can we find out what organisations are open to rotations for this project?
I'm so delighted by that question, Juanita. Thanks to the person that asked it. There are where to begin. There's such an opportunity, we think, from rotations that might be within an organisation that had multiple practice areas. It might be across partners within an area. Yeah, I think I mentioned at the start, it's in the way I think about it is a high value but high cost opportunity. It'll take a lot to get it right, but they're so popular and they're so common across other leading graduate programs that would be remiss of us to not make the effort and explore those. So from the program perspective, there's a lot of complexity in this program, as you can get a sense, and so we're going to develop over time and mature over time, and we're keen to start those. We don't want rotations to be a barrier for organisations participating. So if it's not possible for your type of organisation, or not possible at this point in time, of course that's fine, and we'll work for it. However, we are really keen to do the conversation that this question is absolutely sort of pointing to, of identifying organisations that are up for that challenge. You may already be a part of a partnership in a local area, and you can imagine a really fulfilling and rich partnership between a couple of organisations that you work really closely with. You might be a larger organisation that has multiple practice areas. You might be part of a network within a specialty area that has different types of practice that you could see. I'd really encourage you to have those conversations with your colleagues. The peak bodies that I mentioned that are also really keen to support those conversations as well, and the conversations we've been having with peak bodies are also exploring what these conversations can look like, both the opportunity and the challenges, and how difficult it can be, but how we might be able to overcome those as well. So I really encourage you to reach out to us through the website if you have notions there. Also encourage you to reach out to your partners that you work with day to day, and to the peak bodies that are supporting this program to start to explore those networks and possibilities. That's another answer in the abstract, with apologies, but that's exactly the conversations we'd love to be able to start. And Juanita, I don't know if you want to say any more from a peak body perspective, but we'd really encourage those conversations to start nice and early, so we can work towards those things. We do think there's real opportunities there, and when we look at other graduate programs in other systems, there's such a rich learning and such a strong sort of cultural opportunity as well. So I don't know, Winnie, you may want to say some more about that, but thank you for the question. That's exactly the conversations we'd like to be able to promote through this.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And I think it's important as well to remember that this is a pilot, and that will evolve over time. So at the moment we have the application's open for the first round, and it may be that it looks a certain way at the start here while we're while we are piloting a product or a program as it were, and then over time some of those insights will help us add layers as we go through the program. I'm interested as well, there's a follow-up question here that I think is relevant to this question of kind of, I guess, collaboration more broadly in the sector around this program, whether it's rotations, whether it's networked approaches. One person has asked the question, can organisations apply jointly to share a graduate worker?
Oh, good question, and thank you for the creativity. I'm going to read behind that too. Potentially an organisation who may not otherwise take on graduates and looking to start to do so. And if we that's absolutely one of our goals for this program. So thanks for the question. Probably just really important. You would have seen this, of course, that $8,000 is there to help you support and the graduate, but it obviously doesn't cover the graduate salaries. So employers will need to cover the salaries of their employees through their existing funding. So just to be clear, in the background, this program, we are absolutely open to partnerships between organisations to run programs together. That might mean you're able to partner with someone to share, to employ someone together and to partner in participating in the program and partner in this funding. We're absolutely open to that. It might be that you are partnering with an organisation to jointly employ someone. It might be that you're a relatively small organisation, you've got one graduate, but you could join up with a few others in the area, combine that funding to create a program that applies for, a handful of graduates across a handful of organisations. Those partnerships could be really positive, and we'd be very, very happy to support those. So I hope that answers your question. Probably just sort of to clarify that salary costs would need to be covered by the organisation, but within that bounds, we're very, very open to partnerships between organisations. Really, yeah.
Yeah, great, thank you. I've got another question here in relation to employer eligibility. There is a lot of crossover with the services listed and youth justice / corrections. Would organisations receiving DJCS funding be eligible?
Good question. Thank you. The program is focused on the DFFH portfolio. I'm sorry to do the bureaucratic silo element. That's really partly because we know there are other programs run by other departments that do sort of overlap with this. So trying to have a bit of clarity around this. Of course, if your organisation is receiving DFFH funding and also receives justice fund, by all means, you can absolutely participate. But in terms of the program we are designing it within the DFFH portfolio, and then is focused on workers working in that space. Again, it's a pilot, something we might grow towards over time as well. And once maps get up around, we can have some of those conversations with our justice colleagues and work towards that. Would still love to hear about any barriers that creates and opportunities to grow that. But just in terms of the program we're designing, we really are looking at the DFFH portfolio, which has the list there on the website.
Thank you. Also a question from a university on the call. How can universities get involved in promoting graduate program opportunities?
Oh, that's a great question too. Thanks, Juanette. These are all Dorothy Dixes. These are wonderful. Thank you for your interest. Plenty of our university partners are already involved, and if you are on the line, thanks for your support in promoting the program. Most universities, I think all universities we've had direct contact with, they fed into the design process, and we've shared with them some of our information. We're going to continue to spam you with some of our promotional material that you can provide to your graduates, and we're looking forward to working with you even more closely over the next period in terms of getting ourselves visible at careers fairs and things like that. So stay tuned to hear from us on that front. If you want to reach out to us directly, if somehow you're not on our mailing list, by all means, please do. But we're also in touch with Victorian University and all of our TAFEs as well, with the program looking at diploma level graduates as well. We're already, I think, spamming a bit with material that can be promoted to students and graduates. Already really appreciate the input from educational institutions in how we designed it and how we set it up, and we'll continue to do that a lot. So if you're not getting spammed by us already, please do reach out via the website, but you probably already are, and so we really do appreciate your support in promoting the program.
Thanks, Tom. Just a question from another angle, from a potential participant in the program as a grad. This person is asking whether it's possible to find out which organisations are participating in the program in a particular area, say an area of regional Victoria, or a local area to that person, trying to decide whether to submit an application through the centralised application hub. Is there a possibility of finding out which organisations are participating, or how might they get involved at that local level?
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. Yeah, really encourage you to jump on the website. There's a page for graduates, and it'll have also a link to the recruitment platform that we mentioned, RMIT's Witty. It's pretty easy to register your interest through there. In due course, of course, they'll be asking for application information and resumes and all that sort of stuff. But in the first instance, registering their interest is really easy. So I'd encourage you to jump on there and do that. Obviously, the range of roles that are available will depend on the interest and the support that we get from employers. So we're only about a week or so old in terms of getting people involved. So I couldn't tell you today, but Witty will absolutely know the range of employers that have signed up and the opportunities that are available to you. And then we can also connect you to other information about where you can find other information about other roles as well. Short answer is jump on the website. It's pretty easy to register your interest. If you're a student as well, you can pre-register your interest for when you're going to graduate in the future as well. The great opportunity from this is, those of you who know Witty, they're well connected to our sector. They know the sector well and can help to explain the range of opportunities that are available out there.
Thanks, Tom. And just one more question. We're doing well. We're on time. We're always told our sector has an image issue, and this person is wondering whether there will be a public campaign to generate excitement and interest in working in our sector and to make sector graduate roles more attractive to new workers.
I'm happy to take this one, Tom. It's what a great question. And I think, some of the reason is that we've been pulled together and set up as a function is to do exactly that, because we know that, and they're also up against, there are campaigns across the board for police and education and so on. I think there's two layers to this. So in terms of the grad program, we are definitely doing what we're calling a functional campaign in relation to attracting in recruitment. So we're trying to think, strategically about what are the avenues through universities, through different kind of networks and so on to attract the cohort to pull in. And we're doing that for each of our programs. Switch to social work, slightly different, kind of set of activity in relation to thinking strategically about who are we trying to target. But more broadly, it's an excellent point in relation to how do we think across the sector to promote it, because we want to also absolutely position community sector as, both Juanita and Tom have said, highly skilled, critical work, highly valued, terrific foundational knowledge, wonderful colleagues, all of those elements that really means that we can offer and the sector can offer a really strong, solid career pathways, and this kind of, critical start as an important one to that. We've got another round of what the broader Jobs That Matter campaign. Some of you will be aware of that. It's been run a few times. That has an intent of looking across all of community sector to attract in. There is a website. It kind of goes to the range of from family violence to disability services. So there's that level. We know that attracts some element, it does promote to some degree. It doesn't, though, get to the level of detail or targeted cohort that we also want. So we know we need to operate at both levels in relation to what we're doing in terms of that really critical attraction ask. The other thing, of course, is big campaigns are expensive, and so I think we need to be thinking strategically about what is the what is the best efforts that we can put towards that. But as an importance around what is the value proposition of the community sector, we are absolutely focused on that, and really keen to keep talking to the peaks about how we can best do that. So yeah, thanks for raising it. It's a critical point.
Yeah. Last call out for questions. I think we might have got through them all, and pretty good on the timing too in that respect. So if there's no more questions, I think we're pretty much pretty much done. So I'd just like to wrap up the session by thanking again you, Rachel and Tom, for participating today. Thanks to DFFH for its innovation in this space and for your commitment in particular, Rachel and Tom, to working collaboratively with the sector and to building this new pipeline for new workers in our sector. To everyone who attended and contributed today, you'll shortly receive some information. We've mentioned a couple of websites and a couple of things today that we can send through to you shortly on email. And please, if it's of interest to you in terms of being a graduate or a university partner, or of course, an employer in the community services sector, please give this a go and be a part of this exciting new initiative. Thank you very much for your attendance today, and see you next time.
Thanks, Juanita. Thanks, everybody. Fantastic questions. Thanks.